Okay, good morning, everybody, and welcome to our masterclass all about belly fat, stubborn weight, and how to tackle it, because I know it can be really frustrating. So I'm really grateful that you're here spending this Sunday morning with me today. And if you are here, you've likely had some experience with this in some shape or form, weight that's just hard to get rid of. And it seems like no matter what you've done, dieting, exercise regimens, detox plans, like you don't really seem to see a notable difference. And there is a reason for this. So I want to break down why that is and give you some tips on what little simple things that you can implement right away that can make a really big impact, because I know that this can be really frustrating. I've been doing this for a while, and this is by far one of the most common symptoms that people come to me with. It's really easy to get overwhelmed, to get confused with all of the information out there on the internet. A lot of it's conflicting, so it can just be hard. Eventually, people just kind of get to a point with just where they're stuck, and it's easy to stay stagnant because there's just so much out there, and you don't know what's going to actually work for you. So I really hope to just empower you today with some reasons as to why this is happening and then what you can do about it. And I really believe that excess weight is often a symptom, right? It's either a symptom of our lifestyle, but it could be a symptom of a couple other things as well. And so what we're going to chat about today is some of the biggest culprits when it comes to that sticky weight. And I'm excited to talk about this with you today. So for those of you who might be newer to me, just a quick intro. I'm Danielle, Danielle ZIES. I'm a holistic nutritionist. I have my company is Simply Nourished, and I'm really all about nourishing up tired and depleted bodies. I work with a lot of people who have a lot of burnout, a lot of hormonal issues. And really at the core of what I do is help people find ways of living and ways of eating and nourishing themselves, not only with food, but with lifestyle, mindset, all of the pillars of health in a way that's sustainable, that you can actually create something long-term for not only great health right now, but for nice, vibrant, proactive, thriving health in the future as well. I'm the co-founder of the Adrenal Recovery Collective, which is a collaboration of different professionals that have come together to work with people who have all sorts of different chronic fatigue related conditions. And so I'm actually the co-founder and nutritionist there. And I've gained a lot of insights, especially in regards to the hormonal stuff that we're going to talk about today, that I'm excited to share with you. So yeah, that's me in a quick nutshell. So just jumping right into things. The bad news, we'll start with the bad news, is you can't actually target weight loss to a specific area. So when I say, what can we do about this stubborn belly fat? There's nothing that you can truly do with diet and exercise that's going to target that fat specifically. But the good news is that you can address the underlying issues that contribute to weight gain in those certain areas. And that's when diet and lifestyle and the exercise can help, when you're addressing those specific underlying root issues. So what causes this fat that feels so hard to get rid of? You might have some ideas, but these are the ones we're going to focus on today. So hormones like insulin, excuse me, guys. Hormones, insulin, estrogen, follicle stimulating hormone, cortisol, thyroid hormones, leptin, ghrelin, and more. These are just a couple examples, and we're definitely not going to go through all of them today. It would just be way too boring, but I do want to highlight a couple today that will really show you just how much of an impact these hormones actually have and how it becomes such a vicious cycle. It's really kind of an aha or insightful to put these connections together, because I think a lot of people really don't realize how influential these hormones can actually be. And then how stress and the implications of chronic stress really contribute to that cycle. We're going to talk about that in detail. And then of changes in metabolism as well, because metabolism does have something to do with it. So just diving right into the hormone bit. So hormones, they really play a role in how we store fat, where we store fat, when we break it down. They play a role in our cravings, our hunger, our satiety. So really hormones are at the backbone of like burning fat or not burning fat or not burning fat, and also where in our bodies we're storing this fat. So the influence is really big, and they just make things more complicated, a lot more complicated than what we're commonly taught in school or online about like basic calories in and basic calories out. And so I really want to share a couple connections with some of the big hormones for you right now. So let's start with estrogen. And so estrogen, there's a couple different types of estrogen, and there really can be two different scenarios. And so what I want to show you is first, like when estrogen is high. So this often happens a bit younger in life. Oftentimes, like we can have a high estrogen for so many reasons. There's so many factors in our lifestyle right now that contribute to estrogen, to having higher estrogens, but one of the big ones is stress, right? And so I always like to kind of just give you a little bit of a technical visualization right now, just to show you how it works, because estrogen and your progesterone levels, they really need to be balanced in relation to one another. And so when you get stressed, it's really easy for your progesterone. It's one of the easiest hormones affected by stress. And when you think progesterone, it's like the pregnancy hormone, right? So there's like a big connection between like low progesterone and fertility issues, but highly affected by stress. And so essentially, like if this is estrogen and this is progesterone, the bigger that gap between the two, the more estrogen dominant your body is going to be. And so the more estrogen dominant you are, the more that you're going to see estrogen sensitive areas of your body, like for women, it tends to be like your hips and your bum and your thighs area. You'll see that fat really gravitates to those areas. For men, when estrogen is high, we often see it in the hip region, but also in the breast region as well. But coming back to this visualization of the two hormones, right? So if we're chronically stressed, estrogen can be normal and progesterone just gets lower, but because that gap gets bigger, your body sees itself in an estrogen dominant state, and this can contribute to the fat gain. And then in some scenarios, like your progesterone's fine and your estrogen is high, or you have a bit of both, like you're stressed and your progesterone's low and your estrogen is a bit high, and it's just even wider of a gap and more of that symptom. So I know that's a little bit complicated, but I just want to show you just like there's a couple different reasons why you can be estrogen dominant, and to shine a light that there are estrogen for all hormones really. I actually just did a post on my Instagram, but there's certain areas of your body that are more sensitive to certain hormones, and those hormones can increase fat gain or like lack of fat burning, like with this stubborn weight in those areas. So like I said, when estrogen is high, it's often like the thighs, the bum, and hip area, midsection. But on the other end of the spectrum, when it's low, and this is often when we start to see lower estrogen during the perimenopausal years or into menopause, we also start to see this issue, but the fat gain tends to be more in the abdomen. So this is huge for the women who have entered perimenopause or transitioned into menopause, because you'll tend to get more of this estrogen. And the way I'd like to describe it, I wrote it down just like estrogen can hold onto the fat in estrogen sensitive areas and make it really hard to lose. And essentially it's because your body is trying to balance out, and it's like because the hormone is low, it actually stimulates other hormones that can actually make this worse. So yeah, so for example, it could be like follicle stimulating hormone. It's a hormone that increases a bit during stress or during menopause, and also the androgens. And so this can contribute to more visceral belly fat simply because your estrogen is low. And I know there was a lot of hormonal words in there, so I just wanted to make sure that I explained that well for everybody. Does that make sense? Yeah, okay. So Yeah, basically the fat is holding onto hormones in your system while your body tries to regulate. And this can be really tough fat to lose. So this is where eating clean and working out won't always be enough. And it's not just about calories in and calories out anymore. And so the next one I want to talk about is cortisol. So you've probably heard about cortisol before, and none of these hormones are bad, right? It's just like the balance with one another and your body trying to self-regulate and often protect. And this is where I really want to show that like oftentimes stress is really at the root of it, like our surging stress hormones. And what's cool about it is it just gives us stuff that we can implement right away that we can actually start doing day to day in our life that can make a really big impact alongside the lifestyle stuff. So with cortisol, there's a real biochemical or physiological reaction that happens when our brain thinks that we're under stress. And one of those things is the body actually takes stored triglycerides and redistributes them to visceral areas. So what's really interesting about this is you don't even have to change your calories for this to take place. So I could be sitting beside you, we could have the same diet, but we could weigh the same, like the same body type, but one person has a lot of stress. And because they have this high cortisol, their body is going to be mobilizing that basically stored triglycerides and turning it into visceral fat way faster than the other person. So that person with the stress is going to develop more of that belly fat. Kind of a bummer, but it's cool to have this awareness. The thing that makes this even more complex is this visceral fat has high cortisol receptors, which means that the more stress that you have, the more fat accumulation that you're going to see. And then the more fat accumulation you're going to see, there's even more cortisol sensitive receptors on that fat, contributing to more, like with the more stress, more fat accumulation, and it just perpetuates in a cycle. So you can just really see the stress influence. Did you have a question, Jan?
I do. What's a visceral area and visceral fat?
Okay, visceral. So visceral fat is that fat that tends to be like belly fat. So it's the more dangerous fat.
Okay.
It's not the fat, like oftentimes that we can get like a little like fat, like the subcutaneous fat around like our muscles and stuff. It's not so dangerous, but that visceral fat is more of like the belly fat around our organs, which can be more dangerous. If that makes sense.
Thanks.
Yeah, if I'm ever using any words that I should have clarified that, but if I'm using any words that don't make sense, please just ask. So yeah, so you can see how this is a cycle, right? With the cortisol sensitive receptors and then more fat going to those receptors, and then more, because there's more fat, then there's more cortisol receptors. And because of the stress, then it just perpetuates and perpetuates. So the other issue with cortisol is that there's a really deep and close connection with insulin. So insulin, we often think of as like the pre-diabetes or the diabetes hormone, but really it's all about storing glucose, right? And controlling our blood sugar. So when we have blood sugar issues, and this is so common, especially with stress, like I said, there's a huge connection there. Blood sugar influences our cravings, our hunger levels, right? And so you can see how this can have a trickle effect, not only leading to weight that's really hard to lose, but then also your body telling you like eat more and giving you these cravings. And then basically you have these hormones that are surging because of stress, but also like naturally as we transition through different like hormonal seasons of our life, and then insulin and blood sugar issues that are basically telling us like eat. And so it's expressing to our body that like we need more fuel because things aren't necessarily getting to the right places. And it can just contribute to like more of this fat gain, right? And cravings that are really, really hard to resist. So that's often one of the symptoms people come to me with too, is like, I feel like I'm not losing this weight, but also like I've got these crazy cravings. And a lot of the times, and we're going to talk about this a little bit closer to the end, it like can really appear as like nighttime binge eating. And then it's like a vicious cycle right before bed. or not right before bed, but you kind of get into this kind of habit where you eat well during the day and then the cravings just kind of take over, and it can be a bit habitual. It could be a comfort thing, but then you have this like nighttime eating that disrupts your sleep. And then the next day it's all contributing to one another. So the other thing I wanted to mention about cortisol, I feel like the class could just like, I could talk about stress hormones till the cows come home, but the other thing I want to say about it is chronically high stress hormones really, like, that's the adrenal connection. And this can really tie into sex hormones as well. So you can be, it doesn't matter what age or gender you are. If you have a lot of stress, I've worked with people, I've done hormone testing on people where we look at their Dutch test or their hormone test, and their sex hormones are totally thrown off because the body has basically been in a state of fight or flight, like a survival state for so long that sex hormones aren't a priority anymore. So everything is so suppressed. And I've even had clients who like are in their 30s who have entered like almost a faux menopause hormonally, right? And so they're having a lot of these symptoms due to either high or low hormones, depending on how it's showing up for them. And a lot of it is rooted in their stress. And it's not only the stress hormones, but it's because that the stress hormones have basically gotten to a point where they've thrown off the sex hormones or thyroid hormones. So it could be a little bit from column A, a little bit from column B, and not to complicate things, but I just want to, I want you to understand like how big of an impact that can actually have on the whole hormonal system as a whole. And so on top of that, one of the other symptoms that I see is in later stages of burnout or with people who have a lot of stress is muscle wasting. But this is also something like we tend to lose muscles as we age as well. So it's just something to be mindful of because we need healthy, strong muscles.
Did Vulu leave?
No.
Sorry. So we need healthy, strong muscles to burn fat, right? And so as we get older, if we have these hormonal things going on, and then we're also not really exercising, we're kind of on that blood sugar roller coaster with it, like not fully proper nutrition, and we're also losing our muscle, then it becomes like a triple-edged sword that we're experiencing where we're not able to burn fat effectively anymore. And this is why it's so much more than just calories in, calories out. And not to make it more complicated, but it just gives you the kind of the empowerment to know that there's things that you can do to like balance these hormones and not struggle so much with so much of this weight. And a lot of the things are just simple lifestyle tweaks. So with that, I just want to take a quick break and have a little sip of coffee here, but does anybody have any questions so far about the hormone stuff? Next, we're going to move into metabolism in just a minute. All good? We can always go through some more stuff at the end if anything pops up. So essentially hormones in a nutshell, like this is just two examples that I shared with you. I basically shared about estrogen and cortisol, but insulin crept in there too. So insulin, estrogen, cortisol, three biggies, but they really influence not only fat gain in their own sense, but other hormones hormones as well, which just complicates things even more because everything is not working like individually, right? Your body's always working as a team to balance and regulate and find this state of homeostasis for you. So a lot of hormones get implicated in the process. Okay, there is a question here. So Margarita's asking, how can you tell if your hormones are in whack or out of whack or not working, or if you have more than one hormone or of the other? So Margarita, this is a really good question. And it could be like, it depends who you're talking to. I've talked to so many people that a lot of the times, if you came to me and explained some of the symptoms that you're having alongside maybe the weight gain, you're able to put some of the connections together. But what we're also going to talk about in a bit is like you can do testing. And so for people who've struggled for a long time or who really want clarity as to what's going on with their hormones, you can do like a lot more advanced testing than just like a simple blood test. And the testing gives you clarity as to what's going on with your sex hormones, your stress hormones, your sleep-wake cycle. So you can really look at the big picture of everything in relation to one another, because that's really important, and not just in one moment of time. Throughout like a 24-hour period. And then from there, you have a lot more clarity as to like, is it a sex hormone issue? Is it a thyroid issue? Is it a stress hormone issue? And from there, you can target things a lot more effectively because you're not really guessing anymore. So testing is definitely the best way. And I'll tell you a little bit more about that in just a second. But you can get a lot of insights based on your symptoms if you're talking to your practitioner as well. So that would be where I recommend starting. Okay, so let's chat about metabolism. Gotta love it. So what slows down our metabolism? Because of course, if we're not metabolizing effectively, we're not going to be burning fat as effectively either. So it naturally declines with age, which I think a lot of us know or have experienced a little bit already. But there's a gene influence here as well. Our stuff like our sleep can affect it, so quality of sleep. But a big one is low calorie diets and irregular meal timing, especially if you're under stress, right? So that can really be something that almost like breaks your metabolism. You almost have to retrain it. Cutting carbs too low can really impact it. Certain medications, hormones, right? So insulin, I mentioned before, the blood sugar storage hormone really has a big influence not only on sugar metabolism, but like protein and fat metabolism as well. So essentially telling your body when to burn fat or not to burn fat. So these things combined together can really affect metabolism. Also nutrient deficiency and gut health are two that I want to mention as well. What does testing cost and where is it done? Okay, let me get into the testing in just a second because we're going to talk about that. So what can you do about it? This is what we all want to know. So what can you do about it? There often needs to be, and what I found, there needs to be a mindset shift, because like I said, it's not just about exercising more and eating less. We really need to think about finding balance in our life and finding balance in a way that like we can thrive in our bodies and not have all this stress. And essentially what I see a lot working with a lot of burnt out people, cutting the calories and doing high intensity workouts, like a lot of it, especially a lot of cardio, can make all of this worse because your body's already in a state of stress, and then you're starving yourself and exercising a lot, often not sleeping enough to fully recover. And it creates basically a cycle for more hormonal, or like the perfect storm for more hormonal imbalance. So I want to, we just need to find balance in our life that feels right for you. And that this not only includes food, but also lifestyle management. So sleep, mindset, and movement, which we're going to chat a little bit more in detail through this. So starting with food, simply starting with regular meals that are balanced with carbs, fats, and proteins. And you'll read a lot online when you start to look into like fixing your metabolism online, or like hormones and like perfect diets. A lot of the time you'll read about like fasting and intermittent fasting and keto diets. And I mean, those can have their time and place, but depending on your hormonal state, especially for women, I don't find especially really long periods of intermittent fasting can almost do more harm than good when you have a lot of stress. So it's kind of just doing a quick self inventory of like, okay, how hungry am I truly throughout the day? And am I nourishing myself well throughout the day with balanced foods from whole foods, like whole foods focused, right? Like mostly plants, good quality protein, fat. You want to have like balanced meals and balanced snacks throughout the day. And I think for a lot of people, this is profound because this is what's going to be a huge benefit to your blood sugar. And just stabilizing your blood sugar through the day and helping to control that insulin really kind of takes, it's like taking a machete and just kind of breaking that cycle with the blood sugar imbalance. Oh, let me see. Okay. So lifestyle, what can we do about it? 7 to 8 hours of sleep a night, huge. Like just getting enough sleep is really important. Addressing any underlying gut issues, weight-bearing exercise for strong muscles, making this part of your regular routine, really important. Also just stress management too. So if you can take time to just do things that bring you joy, meditate, setting boundaries, right? Dealing with unhealed traumas that just keep you in a physical or emotion, like keep your physical or emotional body stressed, all really comes into play here. And it's kind of thinking about like, what is the big thing for you when it comes to food, when it comes to your lifestyle, that you can start working on starting today at Sunday, like something juicy in your self-care routine that will just make up the biggest impact right now for like one little thing of effort, the biggest impact for you to just kind of regulate the hormonal stuff that's going on. One thing I did want to mention when just coming back to food for a second, breaking those late night food binge habits and getting mindful about your snacking habits is really, really important. Getting enough fiber and nutrients from whole foods, like even just making sure that you're having a bowel movement every day is really important. And then the other thing too is like, check out the Dirty Dozen Clean 15 list when it comes to what foods to buy organic and what foods you don't need to buy organic. It doesn't need to be everything, but the better quality with those Dirty Dozen, like strawberries and apples, leafy greens, kind of like the more delicate vegetables. If you can opt for organic hormonally, that's going to be helpful. So foundations always are and always are going to be key. So just start there. Like I said, pick the big one for you. Is it self-care, nutrition, digestion, gut health, emotional resilience, mindset tools, movement, proper exercise, sleep hygiene? I just like pick the biggest one for you this week and start there. And then you can always build on things. And I know that sounds simple, but really it's about breaking the stress pattern and getting your blood sugar supported. And that can make such a big difference right off the bat. So I know all of this can feel really complicated, but it truly doesn't need to be. And really that's my whole Simply Nourished philosophy, is like, how do we make this as simple for you as possible, but also get you tremendous results in the meantime? So I do want to just let you know that support is available if you feel called to it, if you feel like this is something you need right now. Right now, there's just a month and a bit left of 2021, which is crazy, but it's really the perfect time to start thinking about how you want to take and make huge strides towards thriving and living a really vibrant, ultimate version of your life in 2022. So if coming into this masterclass, you were kind of feeling unclear about like what's causing your belly fat, or after listening to the talk, learning about metabolism and the complexity of hormones, you'd like to streamline things and get some support and some clarity, I'd really love to invite you to schedule a call with me. It's a totally complimentary call, so we can chat more one-on-one about the ideal strategy for you. Come up with something that's really going to streamline everything for you once and for all and help you achieve that amazing, vibrant life in 2022. The perfect diet, the perfect workout plan, the big players worth your energy right now when it comes to stress management. We can discuss it all. I see every day how impactful this work can be, and would love this for you if this is something you feel like you need. Just to share quickly a little bit about my 6-month program that I offer. So it's Nourish Simply in 6 months. It's a 6-month program where essentially we create new habits. We go through all the hormonal stuff and we give you all the juicy nourishment that you need on a total body level, so that you walk away so well equipped with how to take care of your body. You've achieved your goals and then some. that you don't need like nutrition coaching anymore after this, basically. So it's a 6-month journey that we go on together. It includes like unlimited access to me, 6 months of immersive coaching. We have biweekly check-ins, workshops, access to helpful tools and meal plans, so many tailored and customized resources, but also energy work, including things like Reiki, EFT. We really do a lot of neuro-linguistic programming as well. I'm certified in that. So there's a lot that goes into the program, and that's something we can chat more about if it's a good fit for you on the call. I have a couple spots available right now. And once those spots get taken up, the doors will be closed probably till spring, summer of 2022. So I really do encourage you to book a call now to have this conversation if you're feeling called. And one of the perks of doing it now is that I'm actually offering complimentary hormone testing, which is $600 value. Complimentary hormone testing for anybody who joins in November. So this is an opportunity for you to get crystal clear clarity as to what's going on with your sex hormones, your stress hormones, really get a look at what's going on. And then we can, through the course of the program, dial things in extra well for you. So I'm really, really excited about that. I am going to share the link right below where you're watching this right now. And you can schedule a call there. Yeah, I guess I'm going to post this on YouTube. So check the comments. There'll be a link to schedule the call and we can chat more there. And I really want to thank you so much for watching and spending this time with me today. I hope the class has been insightful and helpful. And if you have any questions, you were kind of watching the end, an edited version of the ending, because we had some tech issues and the meeting ended up cutting off. So we did have an extended Q&A, but think of the complimentary call as a perfect place for you to come and get any questions that you have right now about the hormones, about metabolism, about the program, about how you can get the support. It's a perfect place for you to do that just one-on-one with me. And I'd love to connect more with you there. So have a great day and thank you again for watching.